This podcast is powered by the Digital SME Alliance. The Digital SME Summit lands at the European Economic and Social Committee in Brussels on December 10th. The all-day event will highlight topics on AI, sustainability, standardization, digital skills, and more. For tech companies, a unique matchmaking session awaits you to connect, network, and partner with peer European innovators.
Parliament's winners and losers. A conversation with Greens and ECR. As many had predicted, us included, the College of Commissioners passed with 360 votes, which is the lowest majority in history. Today ushers in a mandate filled with uncertainties, except one. The European People's Party enjoys free rein in Parliament negotiations. And master strategist Manfred Weber is at the helm of all that, forging alliances across the political spectrum. But how do non-coalition groups view this new, secretive, and unpredictable European Parliament?
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Giada Santana, and this is Today in the EU.
So my yesterday started with me running around the Parliament's maze in Strasbourg with reporters Theo Bourget-Rigons and Nico Yonta. We had to get to the hemicycle in time for the vote. We're a few minutes away from the vote. We don't know exactly when it's going to be announced. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, only because I think it's pretty certain where the vote is going to go. It's very likely that von der Leyen is going to get the commission through. And with actually quite significant support as well. So it's well played on her side.
Vote is closed and it is adopted. Congratulations.
She got
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's 370 votes, which is significantly lower than what she got in July. And this is the worst result in history, I think.
I don't necessarily know if it's a bad result because it's a much more fragmented European Parliament than it used to be 5 years ago. And in that sense, it was always going to be a bit more of a gamble. And in this context, I think von der Leyen has actually played her card in a way that, sure, she doesn't have an overriding success, but has managed to get all the candidates that she wanted through, has managed to keep control of the last-minute political deadlock that we were finding ourselves in. So, sure, lower vote result, that's certain. But if you look at the bigger picture, she's coming out on top.
Divide and rule.
I think it's. I mean, they expanded the majority, and still they got less votes than the last term. So even with an expanded majority, they got less votes. Yes, of course, it's a fragmented parliament, but this was supposed to be this stretched majority coming from ECR to the Greens, and then in the end, it only counted 370 votes. So.
Yeah, it will be interesting to talk to the Greens and ECR later. After we got the results, I wanted to understand better the stance of the two groups that were sidelined during coalitions and yet had also the most contrasting opinions of them all. So I talked to MEPs Daniel Freund from the Greens and Carlo Fidanza from ECR. Hello. Hi, we made it. Giada, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Okay, I guess we can go downstairs from here. I'm here in the studio with Daniel Freund. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hi, good.
Early this morning, you tweeted that you would not have voted in favor of this commission against your party line. Can you explain to us why?
Well, as Greens, there wasn't this time around such a clear party line. We had long debates in the group. At the end, there was a small majority that voted in favor of this commission, a large minority that voted against. I myself decided to abstain in the end. And the reasons are basically, well, I did not want to vote in favor of a commission that has a vice president, Raffaele Fitto from the post-fascist Fratelli d'Italia, and also where we are not clearly part of the majority.
Let's remind our listeners, as we said yesterday already, that abstaining in a simple majority vote makes it easier for the vote to pass.
Manfred Weber has done everything here in this house to push us out of the pro-European majority. He concluded an agreement with the Liberals and with the Social Democrats, explicitly excluding us Greens. Von der Leyen thinks differently, and she has clearly said she wants to work with us and said for her we're part of the majority. But in that kind of situation where there are some achievements for us Greens, that the Green Deal continues, that there is no generalized rollback on the protection of the environment and the fight against climate change. There are also some reassuring movements that we see on the defense of rule of law. But in balance, for me, it's not enough to justify a vote in favor. That's why I personally abstained.
And yet your leaders voted in favor, citing in the past few days how the Greens should be a constructive party in future negotiations. Do you think that that's a feasible role, looking at the composition of this parliament and the way things have played out so far?
We would have clearly preferred that we build a stable, democratic, pro-European majority here in the House, right? And the numbers are there. We could have had an alliance of the EPP, the Social Democrats, Liberals, and us Greens. That's exactly actually the majority that voted for von der Leyen in July. I would have preferred that remains the majority also behind this commission. But both von der Leyen and Weber have decided differently. And we will continue to fight for the things that we were elected for, fighting against climate change, fighting for the rule of law and democracy. And we will be constructive in that. It's not like we're going to vote down everything that is being put before us now. But obviously, finding majorities is more difficult. And if Weber and the EPP constantly can basically play the extreme right against the progressive side of the House, I don't think that is good news for pro-European Democrats.
Yes, and that explains the words of Bas Eickhout. I think 2 days ago, he talked about the mess that Weber had caused, but at the same time, we heard him have praising words for von der Leyen. Can you explain to me this dissonance?
Well, unfortunately, the binding power of parties and also that the government, the European Commission and the European Parliament majority is tightly connected. It works differently at the European level than what we know from parliamentary democracies in our member states, right? Since the commissioners are ultimately nominated by national governments, they're not freely decided by the political majority that comes out of the European elections. So there is a power dynamic, right? And Ursula von der Leyen works differently and wants to work with a different majority than what Manfred Weber wants to do and is also doing and has already shown in the past weeks and months how he sees the new majority playing out. We have seen it, that the budget resolution at the end didn't pass. We have seen for the first time the EPP voting for amendments from the German AfD for the most extreme right that we have in this parliament. Those are new developments. Over the past decades, we had a clear cordon sanitaire that all the pro-EU democratic forces said we are not voting for anything proposed by the extreme right and they don't get any positions of power. And this is changing now. It is changing as we see in the votes, but it's changing as well that for the first time, someone from a party like that goes to, in a way, the second highest office in the European Commission.
Yeah, Fito, do you think it's the end of the cordon sanitaire? That's what Manon Aubry said today.
It's definitely the end of the cordon sanitaire as we know it. How this will further evolve remains to be seen, but the speed with which in the last month, sort of basically with every plenary sitting, we have seen the next step of disassembling the cordon is certainly frightening for everyone that thinks the extreme right should not be put in a position of power in the European Union.
I'm trying to understand the Greens' position and what goes behind the rationale of the political strategy. And to me, it seems that if we look at the past mandate, the Greens were part of the majority, and yet they had sometimes a very critical voice against the same majority and against, let's say, the EU establishment. And now that the Greens are at the opposition, it seems like they want to be a part of the majority, and at least the Greens leaders are praising this majority, and they've been in support of that. Do you think the Greens could benefit from a more anti-establishment position now? And if yes, why is the party not taking it?
I mean, to be very clear, in the last mandate, we did not vote for von der Leyen, and we abstained on the Commission College as a whole five years ago. We then were constructive partners. Whenever legislation came before us that was an improvement of the status quo, that was protecting the climate more, that was transforming our society in the right direction, then we engaged with that. We voted in favor of many pieces of legislation. But we were not part of the power sharing deal. This time around, well, we elected von der Leyen. We also, for the first time, when it came to the redistribution of positions here in the parliament that were not allocated to certain groups because of the cordon, we benefited from that, so to speak. So we were part of that power sharing arrangement. But since then, we have been pushed out of, well, I cannot really call it a coalition, but the cooperation agreement that has been signed between the formerly three largest groups in this house. I think at the end of the day, there are different arguments in the group on how best to make sure that we have an impact, but also to limit the impact of those that want to destroy the European Union or want to abolish the rule of law and democracy. And some say, look, we have to swallow a difficult deal and be part of that majority. And by that, we at least have some influence, even if we're a bit weaker here in the parliament. And others say, no, let's just go into the full-on opposition, and then we can be a clear voice for what we really believe in. And that's a constant calibration in a way. And we will have that discussion on every piece of legislation. Is this enough? Probably not, but if it's at least a step in the right direction, then we will carry it. And if not, we won't hesitate to vote against and voice our criticism.
And then why do you think that Weber did not want the Greens inside the coalition agreement? Is this unity a part of it?
I think there are two reasons for him. One is domestic politics. His CSU party also in Germany is sort of going around and saying they don't want a coalition with the Greens and that they stand for the opposite of what the Greens want in fighting climate change, in protecting the environment and so on. And he is in a way carrying that into European politics. I think it's also a bit to consolidate power within his own group. We see that there are new majorities in the House, and part of the EPP wants to go into coalition with the extreme right. And I think he's also playing into that a bit to make sure that he remains in charge of his own group.
I guess we will have to see. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks.
More right after the ad.
This podcast is powered by the Digital SME Alliance. The Digital SME Summit lands at the European Economic and Social Committee in Brussels on December 10th. The all-day event will highlight topics on AI, sustainability, standardization, digital skills, and more. For tech companies, a unique matchmaking session awaits you to connect, network, and partner with peer European innovators.
Next, I'm joined in the studio by Carlo Fidanza from ECR. Hi, Carlo. How are you doing after these results?
Hello. Thanks for the invitation. Very well. Very well. It was a very good result for us. We are very satisfied and happy for having obtained this important portfolio for the Italian Commissioner, Executive Vice President of the Commission, with important portfolio to the cohesion and reforms, and with the responsibility of many other topics that are under the former responsibility of other commissioners, but in the architecture of the new Commission, they are also under FITO. So we are very happy for this. It's the result of hard work made by Giorgia Meloni, our Prime Minister, and our political leader in the last months in order to have this recognition for Italy, well-deserved recognition for a big country, a founding country of the European Union that deserved to be put at the same level of France and Spain that have as well a vice presidency of the Commission. Yeah.
Yes, so you voted in favor, so did other 32 members of your party. Mainly the Italian delegation was strongly supportive of this vote. However, there was a big part of ECR that voted against. Rumor has it that it's also due to the fact that Raffaele Fitto was careful in not associating himself too much with ECR, rather stressing how he would be a representative of the European Union as a whole. Is this how you interpret these results?
No, this is not the real reason. Also because Raffaele Fitto has been in the recent past one of our co-chair of the ECR group in the parliament. So he is very clearly recognizable, we can say. So he is clearly part of our political family. But we have this tradition in our political group that these kind of votes are open to the national evaluations by the different national delegations. It was exactly the same in the last mandate with reverted parts when the Polish delegation voted in favor of Ursula supporting and endorsing their own commissioner. They were at the government at that time. Now the parts are reverted. We are the government. We supported our commissioner, and they are at the opposition at the national level, and they voted against the commission. After 5 years, very difficult.
So more domestic reasons leading to...
For sure, and the same for the other national delegation. We can say we are used to make the national evaluations prevailing in this kind of votes. Today, the vote has been on the College of Commissioners. So if you have a very good commissioner, as in our case, you have to support him.
So everybody seems to be talking about ECR. Weber calls you an ally, Garcia excludes it. Who should we believe?
I think that simply we have a new scenario here in this parliament after the European elections of last June, because the axis has been shifted to the right. We can say this is the reality. Naturally, it can be a political majority because there is an impossible cohesion and co-living between different forces that are enemies or adversaries at the national level. But on the single topics, we will experiment different majorities in this room. This will be the reality after today. So we spoke a lot about majority, about the Greens and ECR and so on. The reality is that the new European Commission, led by von der Leyen again, has to take into account the votes and the numbers inside this parliament. And the numbers has changed a lot in the last few months. So every time that we could build a majority on the center-right, we'll do it, together with EPP and the Patriots and all the other willing people that can help us.
Interesting. Because you mentioned the Patriots, I want to talk about how many have seen this vote as the end of the cordon sanitaire as we know it. Do you agree with this definition, first of all?
We don't agree with the cordon sanitaire. In the last months, when we voted for all the top roles in the parliamentary commissions, committees, and all the other bodies inside, we always supported the candidates from the Patriots and all the other groups, also from the left, because we respect the principle of proportionality that here is usually respected. Before the application of this cordon sanitaire that we consider unacceptable from the democratic point of view, so we don't apply it. And for this reason, every member of this chamber is equal for us, and we have many issues on which we can cooperate with the Patriots, and we will do it.
And yet today, when Weber mentioned Orban, Marine Le Pen, and others being enemies of Europe, he got booed.
I think that we all have to be respectful of all the democracies, all the leaders democratically elected. So also for Orban, it is the same. And I think that today Weber had this need to give this impression to a majority led by the center, we can say, and open to the left and to the right. And he had to put a border on the right. I think that at the end, concretely, and we already experimented this in this room few days ago when we voted about the deforestation regulation, we have no borders because usually in this room, we vote on every single topic with different majority.
As you mentioned before, we're entering into an uncharted territory where we're talking about case-by-case majority. What are some policy files or topics that you are willing to collaborate on with EPP?
I think that we have two major challenges. One is about the green transition. We share with EPP a similar view in order to make this green transition more concrete and less ideological. So trying to change some of the rules that we voted in the last mandate and try to find another way to perceive environmental sustainability without preventing our companies and businesses from competitiveness that they need. And this is the first point.
Could you be more concrete on how you plan to achieve that? What are some?
For example, first point that we'll have on the table will be the automotive sector crisis, for example, on which we share the same receipts and the same views with EPP. We need a review clause anticipated in 2025, as the Italian government is asking at the level of the council. We need technological neutrality, so a new openness to different technologies, not only the electrification of the transports, but also the possibility to use other different technologies such as the e-fuels, the biofuels, and so on. So we share this vision, and we want to work together with EPP on this. And the second challenge is about migration. We both want to have a restored control of our European borders, increasing the repatriation policies and the control borders operations. So this is another field on which we can cooperate very well with EPP.
Do you foresee a reopening of the return directive, for instance?
Yes, I think that we can share many views on this. We need also to be open, as the Commission itself wrote in one of the last documents they approved, to new experiments like the one that the Italian government is doing with Albania.
Yet so far, as we've seen in Albania, all those migrants that have been sent to Albania have been then sent back due to...
Yeah, this is an ideological approach from a part of the Italian magistrates and judges.
Well, there's also principles enshrined in international law that courts are usually upholding, and not only when it comes to Italy, we also see that with the Rwanda case.
So we are fully in line with all the European jurisdiction, and for this reason, we want to reaffirm the need to restore safe borders and respect national sovereignty in the defense of these borders.
Thank you, Carlo.
Thank you.
I'm Giada Santana, and this was Euractiv's Today in the EU podcast. Visit Euractiv to stay on top of the latest news, sign up for our newsletters, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite streaming platform. Don't forget to leave us a star review. It will really help us spread the word about our work. This podcast was produced by Miriam Sainz de Tejada, Charles Cohen, and I. As part of our commitment to accuracy, inclusion, and transparency, Euractiv is part of the Trust Project.